In the famous Christmas carol, O Holy Night, there is a second verse that you've never sung. And it goes like this: led by the light of faith, serenely beaming, with glowing hearts by his cradle we stand. So led by light of a star sweetly gleaming, here came the wise men from Orient land. The King of Kings lay thus in a lowly manger, in all our trials born to be our friend. Twice in this verse we're told of a great light that shines, and it does in three major ways. The first, this light, it shines from the heavens, giving direction and hope to the Magi. The line is, led by the light of faith, serenely beaming. This isn't the star that we're talking about here. This light is more mystical than that. It's more mysterious. We're led by the light of faith. There is something compelling and moving that is pulling us forward into God's good future. I love this thought. It's especially cool as we move into a new year together. The light shines in another way, though, too. It shines in the hearts of the wise men, even in their trials. O Holy Night says this: with glowing hearts by his cradle we stand. There's something in the wise men that has them. It lights in them. The wise men are led by that light of faith, and they feel the light in their hearts. Which honestly is just so important for you to understand when you read Matthew 2 and the story of the Magi. The Magi show us how this whole faith thing works. We feel something in our hearts. It compels us to think more deeply, to act more justly, to love our neighbor. We learn to listen to our heart that holds this light of faith. There is a light in your heart. I don't mean that literally. I mean it mystically, spiritually. And that light guides you, speaks to you. You feel it in your bones. There's another way that the light shines specifically in this song. Lastly, this great light shines on the manger, but it comes from an actual star in the heavens. The line goes like this in the hymn: so led by light of a star, sweetly gleaming. When you break O Holy Night down like this, we see that it is the universe that God uses. It is nature. The created world is pregnant with God's light. And it too, it glows, it leads, it points to something more, something that faith requires. It leads us to Christ. The same light that led the wise men to the manger leads us still. It guides our path from the heavens. It dwells in our hearts, and we are to take it with us and shine it for the world to see. Matthew 2, 10, 11, and 12, it goes like this. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him the gift of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream, by the way, there's that dream thing again, it matters, not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. All right, there is so much here that we just don't have time for, but I would love to break down every word. But what I can tell you is that the cosmos is what guided these strangers. That's an amazing detail. The fact that these strangers present gold, which is the gift of royalty and kings, then frankincense, which is the gift of divinity, and then myrrh, which is the spice that was used at burials and for death. That level of foreshadowing in Matthew 2, when we got 20 plus more chapters to go, that is amazing. I mean, their inclination to even worship, pay homage to this newborn king, that detail is amazing. God inviting the Magi on a journey home by another way through a dream is amazing. I mean, this story at every single verse is chock full of amazing little details, and they still matter to us today. And what I find both theologically and rhetorically astute is that this is a story of how the global representatives show up to honor Jesus, gifting him with the gifts that foreshadow Jesus' life, death, and kingship. Representatives from the vast planet Earth bow at the newborn baby's manger. You want to see something unprecedented and holy? Well, here you go. Matthew chapter 2. It truly is amazing. Jesus is not just the King of the Jews, according to Matthew chapter 2. He's going to be king over the world. He's going to be king over all people, all territories, all tribes, everywhere. It is amazing. I mean, it reminds me of what Philippians 2, verses 10 and 11 say in the Christ hymn. So that at the name given to Jesus, every knee should bend in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. On all fronts, this Epiphany story from Matthew 2 is amazing. So, here we are in the text. We have the global community showing up and acknowledging that Jesus is Lord. A star leads them to the light of life, and then they take that light with them. And that's the rubric that still exists for us today. Christmas has come. The light is here. We have access to it in our hearts, and we are now to go and be reflectors of that light, which is just the perfect segue from Christmas to now our new sermon series, Loving Our Neighbor. So the light has come. What are we supposed to do with it? You shine it. You share it. You extend it to every human body you bump up against for the rest of your life, all of your neighbors. And what Matthew 2 shows us is that the world, by the way, is our neighbor. There's not a person in this world that Jesus is not connected to or concerned for. We are to love all the people that Christ loves, which, by the way, this is what Jesus says is the literal greatest thing you could ever do. In the Gospels, Jesus says the greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and that is a huge and, to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. This command is two parts. It's not two separate commands. We love God and we love others as much as we love God. It's both and. Loving God is something I think, though, that all of us in this room understand. It's why you show up to worship. We think about our relationship with the divine often. We engage our understanding of God weekly. It's why we worship. It's why we pray. It's why we lean towards God and think heavily on the engagement between humanity and God. And this is what we mean in our Baptist world as spiritual formation or discipleship. We're thinking about our relationship to God. Where the rub comes for people, though, is that we don't think often enough, or we think too little about our neighborliness. But we are called to love our neighbors just as much as we love God. All of them. To say loving our neighbors is easy is naive. Loving our neighbors is hard. It takes work, self-examination, paying attention to explicit and implicit biases that we carry in our minds. Neighborliness means that we see others for who they are, and we love them for that version of themselves that they show us. It even means that we let, and this is, I love this phrase, I didn't come up with it, spiritual masterclass, Marjorie Thompson was the one I heard this from, and I've never forgotten it, and I'll say it for the rest of my life. Neighborliness means you let the stranger remain strange. I love that. Just let that sit in your mind. Neighborliness means letting the stranger remain strange. True neighborliness loves seeing others for who they are, and you love that version of themselves that they show you. You don't seek to change them, coerce them, confuse them, control them, challenge them, contest with them. We love them as they are, for the version of themselves that they show you in that moment. Even if you don't understand them, you let the stranger remain strange. And that's not easy. It takes commitment, self-examination, because we are not wired to do this effortlessly. That's what makes Jesus' greatest commandment so powerful to me. It's what makes the story of the Magi so magical for me. I mean, the world has come to the manger, and it worships this newborn king. And then it goes away on its own, goes home by another way. And you do too. You will pack up your things and leave this room. You will move throughout your day, throughout your week and your life. But there is a star that will guide you, and you will bump up against others along the way. Those neighbors, that's who you're supposed to reflect the light of Christ to. There's so much more that we're going to talk about throughout this sermon series, but for now, I'll just end by saying this. If you are going to go out into the world and you're going to present yourself with any other posture for the world to see that is anything other than love, if you are to treat your neighbors thinking you're going to treat them in some way other than with love, then you're doing neighborliness wrong. You're doing Christian living wrong. You are to shine the light of Christ in you. And that light extends in only one posture, the posture of love. There is absolutely no room with that light to guide you to be in any other way. We love our neighbors as much as we love God.